Hi there and welcome to episode number 128, where Amy Wheeler and I talk about the current roller coaster ride we're all on right now with COVID-19. The roller coaster ride of emotions, a lack of structure, not knowing what the future is. We talk about how this experience is really individual and how different people are having different feelings and emotions and reactions to this current situation. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now here's the show. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda. I am welcoming today the lovely Amy Wheeler. Hello, Amy.
Hello. So nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, my dear. And, we were discussing, right, this week, what will we talk about? And of course, we're recording this. What date is today? April 10th. I forget what day we have. And we don't even know what to talk about because, of course, we don't want to not talk about the current situation of COVID-19. But at the same time, it's like, what do we discuss without upsetting people and making sure that we're meeting everybody's needs and every person that's going through different types of experience during this pandemic? And it's really hard, right? So we said we just hit record and, see what comes out and have a chat about what's going on.
I'm speechless, right? That there's so many of my friends, some of them don't have food. Some of them can't pay their rent. Their small businesses are going under, never to come back. And it's tragic. And I'm sending them money on, PayPal to help them out. And then I have other friends who are like, wow, this is the best time of my life. I love staying home and I'm painting and I'm writing poetry and I'm so calm and sattvic. And then I have other friends that are like, oh my God, I'm trying to homeschool my kids. And, at the same time, I have to run my business and work from home and I'm going crazy. And it's just almost like people are having completely different realities and scenarios. So it's really hard to have a talk about all of our collective experience when we're having very different experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And, we didn't want to come on here today and be talking about, okay, use this time for healing. And then the parent with toddlers at home is like, are you kidding me right now? Or, were you talking about going and doing the inner work and the person who's literally wondering how to pay their rent or their mortgage and trying to, feed themselves is just struggling right now. So yeah, it was and is hard to choose a topic. And of course, we're very similar in a similar situation, Amy, in that, we don't have children and our businesses are online. Actually, it's quiet right now, but, our businesses are online and we have like pretty simple lives. But we're aware that there's so much suffering going on out there and we want to acknowledge that and the sadness and the stress that's being experienced. And it's so incredible that it's happening worldwide. This is the amazing thing that everybody is experiencing this right now, be it experiencing it in their own ways and how it's affecting their lives, but everybody in the world is experiencing this right now.
I think that's actually something that's super, super amazing. Like, I know we're all suffering. But the fact that we're all suffering together gives us this thing that I've never experienced before, that is kind of like a collective global grieving that I'm finding very, very interesting. A lot of times when suffering happens in another country, it's kind of like, oh, those people over there, right. Oh, I feel really, really bad for them. And then I go about my business. But this, nobody can escape from. We're in this together. We have to figure this out together. If one country decides to open everything back up and the cases skyrocket, and then those people start flying all over the world again, we're going to have a problem. So this is one of the first things, I don't know, it's the first thing in my lifetime that I can see the direct interdependence of every human being on earth, which is magnificent and terrifying all at the same time.
Absolutely. And you hit on a really good word there, which is together. And we're seeing a lot of bickering going on in politics, to say the least. And we're seeing a lot of nationalism going on. And in particular in Europe, the European Union was concerned that this could cause problems because there was countries within the European Union that weren't going to support other countries. And up until last night, there was this really serious talks, a marathon of talks going on to talk about a recovery plan or a stimulus plan for Europe, and some countries didn't want to play ball. So there was this moment where, it was like, oh my goodness, is the European Union going to survive this? And I do think that being together in this is really important. And in order to beat this, we all have to come together and live by the rules of confinement to help those who are more susceptible to this virus, and to just protect those, and maybe those people that we don't even know. I read a lovely thing on Facebook this past week, and it was about, see these empty streets and these empty malls and these empty places in your town or city as love in action. This is a sign of love. These people are staying at home to protect people that they never even met, and they may never even know. But I think that's a beautiful way to look at this. And I do think that togetherness really needs to happen right now.
Yeah, there's so many things that I could say, but the two that stand out are, I feel so angry when we talk about letting this virus just cull the herd. There's been some governors of some states that are like, hey, the economy's got to go on, and we're just going to, build herd immunity. And what they're saying is that, in my opinion, that there are some human lives that are lesser or not as important. I mean, we all know who's going to get culled. It's going to be the people without health care, the people who don't have homes, the people who are not eating, the people who have a lot of pre-existing conditions, the elderly, the people with immune systems that are not functioning as highly as others. Are we really just going to say, all right, let's let them go so we can get back on track? It just is astounding to me that they're saying that out loud. I mean, I know people think that, but to say it on national television and have people cheer it is just astounding to me. And then, the second part of this is we had Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, last night, basically say, look, the federal government is not taking care of its people. And the government is here to take care of the people. We're not protecting our healthcare workers. We're not getting them the equipment they need. We're not providing the equipment in the hospitals that are needed for the patients. So last night, he declared California what he called a state nation, which is kind of a, wow. Yeah, it's it's pretty bold of him, I must say. Right. But he basically said, look, if the federal government isn't going to help people in this crisis, California is. And he secured a ton of masks and respirators, and he's basically going to act as the federal government and give it to the states who need it. And they don't have to give him compliments or appreciate him or tell him how great he is, that he's going to make sure that the states who need the equipment get it, because California pays, 15% of the federal budget. And he's basically saying, federal government, if you're not going to take care of us, then we're not going to give you all this money. So it's very like, whoa, when you look at how he's acting, saying we're going to take care of people outside of our state. And then we have these other governors saying, let's cull the herd. It's so interesting to watch.
It is really interesting to watch because, it's what's happening in the States is similar to what's happening in Europe. You have these different states in America and then you have these different countries in Europe. And, while it works well when everything's going well and flowing well, but when there's huge issues like this that arise, then there is this, we're just going to, go away from everyone else and do our own thing over here, or we're going to just not go into confinement like everyone else because we're worried about the economy. It's really showing the disparities in society and this is the time when we really need to just forget all political stuff and just really come together and just help everyone get out of this. And like you said, it's just really shining a light on those people who don't have health cover, who are, vulnerable, who have underlying health issues. Minorities are really affected by this. And hopefully there'll be, reports done on this. And hopefully that when we come out of this, that we'll look at different ways to set up our society so that there's not so much disparity between those who are poor people and then the uber rich people.
I think that's the hope for most of us. But unfortunately, in times like this, people sell everything off and then the rich people buy even more, I know. And so it's tough. I'm losing a little sleep over this and not just for me personally and our family and, my friends and my loved ones, but for us as a global community. Where are we going to go? And I just keep trying to put it out there that this is the shakeup that has happened that is going to possibly kind of wake some of us up and possibly set us on a new, more sustainable trajectory where we take care of Mother Earth and we take care of one another and we understand that we are all connected. I mean, that's the hope, but I have to admit, I'm a little worried. Like, are we going to step up to that?
Right. And I too think that this is the portal into that new way and a new society, new consciousness, really waking people up. But right now we're seeing the really ugly side of these institutions that we have. And we're seeing the really terrible way that people are treated. And I'm hoping that this is the peak of that ugliness that we see and that at the other side, yes, that we're going to see that things need to change and those really compassionate, empathetic leaders step forward and guide us through this because, we're really being shown the underbelly of our institutions right now and the structures that are not working for everybody.
And to me, it's so horrifying that in order for us to finally look at this, it's been going on for so long, for us to finally look at this, it's almost like a human sacrifice of our best and brightest healthcare workers and for the underserved and underprivileged. Like, that's the reality. There's two sides to this coin. Yes, we might get a new opportunity to think through this again and restructure it. And there's also human loss right here, right now.
Yeah. Massive human loss. That's hard to even comprehend. You hear those numbers go up every day and it's very, very hard to comprehend these numbers.
Well, and at first I was reading all these posts, do you even know anybody that has COVID? Maybe this is some big global conspiracy. But now, like, I have 3 friends that have it, and I have a cousin who died from it, and it's getting closer and closer, right? That, we cannot deny it, and it's almost closing in on us.
Yeah, and I read an interesting article it was in BBC Science, saying how scientists now are saying that the fact that we are encroaching on animals and nature, and now we have a closer connection to these animals, that this can cause, the spread of viruses, and we have to be careful. And they said, that there's growing awareness that our connection to animals and our connection to nature is very important to our own health and well-being. And I was kind of like, you figure? This is what indigenous peoples have been telling us since forever. Like, right? Hello, wake up. And now scientists are like, yeah, there's something going on there between, I think we're all connected. I think all nature's connected somehow. It's like, oh my.
Well, and that's been one of the most beautiful high points of this. I mean, we're all over the map, right? From being devastated to feeling in awe of watching how Mother Nature in just a month is springing back in a way that none of us have seen in our lifetime. It's phenomenal. I saw so many things this morning on Facebook of beautiful ways that Mother Nature is returning to her natural state because humans are not, taking over. And I can't deny how amazing that is.
It is beautiful, and I think you could see the Himalayas and India now that the pollution is gone, and it's just amazing. I know we have no cruise ships now here in the Bay right now, which is a blessing. And I know we're kind of our topics are going from very low to now looking at the joys of nature, but this is like the roller coaster of emotions that we go on through this, right? Our emotions day to day are like this, where we might be feeling safe and appreciative at home, and then maybe we watch a news story and then we're worried and concerned, and this is what's happening right now, isn't it? This roller coaster of emotions as you go through your day.
It totally is. I'll go from, wow, I'm so happy I live in the woods and I can go hiking every day, just stepping outside my house, and how grateful am I? And then I'll get online with my university students yesterday, and half of them don't have the computers they need, and they don't have cameras, and they can't, they don't have sound, and they're sharing the computer with their brother who's also trying to do online learning. So once he gets off in 30 minutes, I can have the computer. It's just, I just felt devastated. These poor kids wanting to get an education and not having the tools they need from home to do that.
Right. And that's really hard. And, you hear so much of that. Like, we can't assume that everyone even has Wi-Fi or that they have computers, and a lot of people, that structure in their day of going to school, and especially for young kids, a lot of times their only meals or their main meal was at school. So when those structures are gone, it causes a lot of upheaval for people and a lot of worry and stress and that feeling of, where is my security blanket? Where is my structure? Where is my foundation right now? Because everything is feeling very shaky.
And not even to mention, I mean, I have a tendency to empathize so much that I get really, really distraught. So I try not to go here. But the domestic abuse that people are stuck with, and the child abuse, you just know people are at home suffering, and my heart is just devastated. And I feel hopeless and helpless.
Yeah, that's a report that really got to me when the United Nations, I don't know, was he the president? I don't know what his title is, but the head guys in the United Nations came out and said this is a real issue right now. And we have to be very aware that there's a huge spike in domestic violence right now, which is just horrific, on top of everything else that people have to worry about, abuse in their home. I know in France that they implemented a code word where if women can't make a call from their home, that they can go into a pharmacy and ask for mask 19. And that's a code word for, I'm in trouble, I need help. So, and that's a lovely thing where the community is coming together and supporting these people who are being abused. But that is one of the things that was very, very sad to hear, that this is nothing to do with the virus. This is, a result of the emotions that the virus is causing. And, and that's just horrific. But Yeah, I think dealing with these roller coaster of emotions and dealing with all this insecurity and not sure about what the future holds and what the world will look like when we come out of this, I think we have to find security in ourselves, and security, we talked about this before, security in our daily routines. I think if we look too much ahead, it could get very overwhelming. Whereas I think if we just take it day by day and focus on the structure for each day, I think that can be something. Just take it one step at a time. What do you think of that, Amy?
I think we have to. We don't know if second and third and fourth rounds of this are going to happen over and over again. And it's too much to think about. Yeah. Like when I think about that, I freeze. I go into disembodiment and freeze. So I'm with you. I'm basically getting up in the morning, doing my breathing, my meditation, my asana, putting my food on the stove for the day, looking at my to-do list, and just taking even an hour by an hour at a time, and trying not to go there. Yeah. And just, it's all we can do.
So I'm jumping in here because we were talking about daily habits and the importance of routine. And while it feels really weird to be advertising my services right now, I also feel that maybe some people need support. So I have put my Daily Habits for Holistic Health course on discount right now. There's a 20% discount. So if you're interested in getting support around implementing daily routine self-care practices to help support you through this time, learning about the circadian rhythms, learning about the mental gunas of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas and how to keep them in balance, learning about how to access your intuition, then please check out the link in the show notes. Also, I am available and I'm working away online if you're interested in consultations or private cleanse. And if you have any questions on my services, I offer that free 15-minute online call. So please click on the link in the show notes for that. Or you can visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Okay, let's go back to our conversation.
I was listening to Stephen Porges on a webinar yesterday, and he was saying that the absolute worst thing for your nervous system is to have this great big unknown, have no expectations. There's just a big black hole out there to not know what's going to happen, that just frays our nervous systems. And when he said it, I thought, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel very thin and frayed and vatted out, in my mind and my body, because I think that kind of unknown is too much for us to take in.
Yes. And just to explain to people that Stephen Porges wrote the book on the polyvagal theory. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what advice was he giving to people?
Oh, he's so just lovely. He broke it down to, look, we all need human connection. And right now, the only way that's happening is through technology. And don't call your friends on the telephone where you can't see the crinkles in their eyes when they smile and you can't see the softness of their eyes. He said we have to use video conferencing and get up close to the camera and see each other and be with each other. And, if one of you has some calm in your nervous system, share it with the other person, as much as possible through that kind of social engagement system. And I thought that was really good, that we need to know that this video conferencing is not just like watching something on TV. It's actually something we have to be fully engaged in, just like we would be if we were seeing someone in person. We can't give them a hug, but our facial expressions, our eye contact, the tone of our voice, the pace of our voice, the relaxation within our own nervous system when we're talking to them, it can impact them through the camera.
Yeah, I think that's very important, especially that there's so much communication in the facial expressions alone. And I think at this time that the nerves tend to be frayed, which is natural, and that means emotions can be very heightened as well. So, maybe something that you said over the telephone or text could be taken the wrong way because people have this state of nervousness right now. Whereas if you're on video, there's less of a likelihood for that to happen, for that miscommunication to happen.
Yeah, and we can see if someone's really struggling or if they're okay. I've started calling my dad every day on video just to see what's happening in his facial expressions. And I just feel like even though he lives a long ways away, and I usually didn't call him on Zoom or FaceTime, now I'm going to because I feel the need to see how he's doing.
Yeah, I think that's really important to check in. And that's it. You don't necessarily need to go into a whole conversation on emotions, but you can get a feel for just seeing them on the video, how they're doing.
Right. And encourage, I hate to say this, but some of our relatives are not as up to date in the protocols that we need to be following. Mm-hmm. So one of my relatives said, "Oh, I haven't been out in a week, so I really was craving an Arby's sandwich. And so I went through the drive-through and of course without a mask." And I'm just like thinking, oh my goodness, they're not getting it. Right. Right. And so gently kind of, saying, hey, this is a global pandemic. We can't be driving all over town to Arby's and, it's we have to help educate in a kind way,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. And doing it with compassion, because there is a tendency now to have anger as well towards people who are not respecting it. And, definitely that's the pitta reaction, to have that anger or frustration towards people who are not following the rules and guidelines, but just understanding that maybe they're just not quite comprehending or don't want to comprehend the situation and refuse to even acknowledge it in some cases. But I do think communication really important, and connecting with family and friends, and reaching out, especially if you're feeling isolated or lonely, and making those dates, those video dates, I think is really important.
So Colette, what do we do with, we have a neighbor, we were walking our dog at 9:00 at night, and we're the only ones, in the street, and he happens to step outside his house and says, "This coronavirus, it's such a joke. I can't believe we all have to stay in our houses. Don't you think this is just a big hoax?" And I didn't even know how to respond, because that was the night that my cousin was passing, and I was frozen. I just didn't even know what to say to him. I thought, I don't think I can have this conversation right now.
Yeah, it's really sad, because you do see a lot of these conspiracy theories online. You hear about them a lot. And like you were saying earlier, people asking, do you even know of anybody who has it? But I think just if there are those people in your life, reminding them that there are people dying of this, and just look at the numbers. Look at the healthcare workers and the stress that they're under. They're talking about it's like a war zone, and just reminding these people that, that it is actually happening and there are people dying from this. I think for people like that as well, there could be a block to not wanting to acknowledge the situation because it's just too scary for them to go there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit. I want to have compassion for that, but I also feel angry and feel that we need to take responsibility. And I don't know. For the most part, I've just been walking away from those conversations, because I feel like if with all the information out there, they're choosing not to see it, I'm probably not the one that's going to convince them.
Yeah. And I think that they have a guard up, and they are, the reality is perhaps for some people just too scary.
Yeah.
And they just can't even deal with that. So they're just going to convince themselves that it's a conspiracy theory and everything is actually really okay.
Do you ever, sometimes I read these stories, these conspiracy things, and they're so convincing that I'm like, wow, I can understand why people believe that.
Yeah. I've been trying to stay away from them. One person did send me something, and I happened to watch it, and it was a video of these people in the States, and they're outside the hospitals going, there's no, the queue of people here for testing, and the emergency room itself was empty. And I'm like, yes, but they're at certain areas of the country, in certain hospitals, and it's, things are not going to be happening on the doorstep. So, but I hear what you're saying. They can make a very convincing argument, but I just don't want to go down that route of looking at all those conspiracy theories. Well,
let's talk a little bit about that, because a big thing for me that's been helping me is to limit my news and to only look at, one or two trusted sources, and to make it 10 minutes, not 2 hours, to move past the posts that, are going crazy on either side, and just try to, what I call, protect my mind, like a mantra protects our mind. But I think there's other ways to protect our minds too, that this is a very sensitive and subtle thing that we have, that we cannot allow it to be bombarded by so much news and craziness.
Yeah, I think definitely limiting how much we are watching the news. We talked about before about staying informed. I think that's important, but definitely limiting, especially in the evening, a few hours before bed, like you have to turn off the news and whatnot, because that's really going to affect you and affect your nervous system and affect your sleep. And then once your sleep is affected, it's going to have a knock-on effect of affecting everything else in your health. So I do think that making, a decision each day that you catch up, to a couple of times a day, that you catch up, like you said, from reliable resources, and then that you shut it off, and you're even be careful in your conversations with people, that yes, you don't want to bypass what's happening, but that you also don't get stuck in a conversation which is going to, send you into, your sympathetic nervous system, so you're coming off the phone really freaked out.
Well, I'm going to take it even one step further, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate what I'm about to say. I got addicted to the show Outlander. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It's about 17th century Scotland.
Okay.
And as amazing as it is, and as addictive as it is, and every night I wanted to go back and see the next episode, and I just couldn't. During the day, I was like thinking about the characters. I realized that it's such an intense, show about, the Scottish and English going to war. And I realized, this is an additional layer of stress I don't need, even though I'm addicted. Right. So I cut myself off. Yeah. At the end of season 3, there was a moment where, all right, we're done. We're not going to watch this right now. And I'll go back to it when times in life are not so intense, but I'm protecting my mind. I'm making conscious choices about what I look at, how it makes me feel, how does it turn on my nervous system, and really saying no thank you to a lot. This morning I said no thank you to coffee, because yesterday I had kind of a bad nervous system day.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I've decided I'm not doing any caffeine, not doing any alcohol. And yep. I watch my last news update at 6:00. And then after that, I don't watch any screens. I don't do Netflix right now. I'm purposely not doing any of that. I don't, use the TV. And so in the evening, when I'm trying to chill out, I diffuse my oils, making sure I'm having a bath every night with like Epsom salts and stuff. So just to kind of calm everything down, and that I'm reading a book, and a book that's more, more enlightening, like you, making really disciplined choices and making sure that, especially in the evening after 6:00, there's nothing that's going to heighten and activate my nervous system.
Yeah. And I'm even kind of, I'm eating very healthfully, which is so amazing to be home and cooking and eating well, but even being careful about what I eat, like in Ayurveda, apparently, someone told me this and I found it to be true. You shouldn't eat cauliflower in the evening. That's not an evening meal. And it's true. I feel that. So, okay, we're not putting cauliflower in the soup, right? And anything that's kind of hard to digest. I'm eating very healthfully. But then last night, because I was eating so healthfully, I had a little trouble sleeping. So I'm going to allow myself to have something a little heavier before dinner or before bed tonight, because I don't like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and feeling a little bit hungry.
Yeah, that can happen when Vata is aggravated. And so it is best to eat your main meal in the middle of the day with those harder to digest grains, or if you're having any other proteins that are harder to digest. But if Vata is aggravated, if you have a high Vata constitution or you're Vata aggravated, that there is that tendency, like you said, to wake up between 2 and 6 a.m. So having some good fats and some grounding food for your final meal is important. And I really think that having some good fats like ghee or sesame oil or coconut oil, avocado oil, something, olive oil in your final meal is really important so that you're satiated and your nervous system is calmed by those good fats. I think that's really important. So being aware if you're having soups that you're sauteing the vegetables off in some good fat, or in your bowl of soup that you're adding a little bit of, virgin olive oil to the top before you eat it.
Absolutely. That's what I wish I had done last night. I just needed something to soothe my frayed nervous system, good fats.
Good fats, exactly. Or adding like a sweet potato, something like a root vegetable that is really good and for grounding that Vata energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. But yeah, these are all choices that are important to make. And I think that for the parent who's at home now, you're the parent, you're the teacher, you have so many different hats on, that I think for you to have, when the kids go to bed, to have a really grounding, nourishing nighttime routine, doing your oil massage if you can, and having a bath or a shower, some pranayama or some meditation, just a very short routine. Because I know you're probably exhausted after your day. But then the key then is getting to bed early so that you could get up at maybe a little earlier before the kids get up and have some quality time to yourself. I think that's really important. Even if that quality time is sitting with your cuppa in the morning and just having some time to yourself.
I've had several privates this week with moms that are just completely stressed out about having their kids home and what I've been doing with them. And it sounds silly to do as a yoga therapist, but they need the hand holding. They cannot figure it out, is to put themselves, their children, and their family on a schedule. So I literally negotiate a daily schedule with them, and we put it on an Excel spreadsheet. You'll get up at this time. You'll do this, and this as a family. And here's when you'll have some quiet time. Here's when your husband will have some quiet time, or, if it's a single mom, just kind of working within her schedule and talking to them about how important this routine is. And, I think they want to do it, and I think they're grateful for the lesson, but I think implementation is a whole nother level. Yeah. Because there's a transition period where everybody has to get on board, and this is how we do it. And I just tell them, if you can get through the transition and get people on board, and, buy a big whiteboard and write down everybody's name and the times of the day. And here's when we do homework, and here's when we do this, and here's when we play. And, it's going to be so much better, especially if this thing is extended for months and months.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because, when at the start, it's like, oh, this is like, when we have a blizzard, or when we're home for the holidays or something like that. But if it's going to be an extended period of time. So you can go out of routine for the first week or so, but then after that, we need to implement routine so everybody stays sane and everybody knows, kids need structure, they need routine, they need boundaries. And so everyone knows, what their daily structure is. And I think that structure really gives people something to focus on, particularly kids, and that it gives them some guidelines to this new situation that for them is very confusing.
Well, and it soothes everyone's nervous system because they know what's going to happen next. At 3:00, we do this together. At 5:00, we do this together. So everyone, like we were saying, staying in the moment, hour by hour, not getting too far ahead. And we all know what we're doing in that hour of the day. And it's working for me. And I just can't imagine with, if I had 3 kids running around here, we would be on a schedule.
Right.
Trust me.
Right. I know my heart does go out to parents because it's very hard, especially if you don't have outdoor space. If you have a garden and they can run out and play in the garden. But if you're in an apartment, and the French apartments are very small and you can only go out once a day here, it's very, very challenging. So I think when we've said this before, that your self-care is really important. So making that time at night after the kids have gone to bed and first thing in the morning to at least do some little self-care practices so that you can remain calm and, keep yourself in balance as much as you can. And, I was talking to other clients about this feeling of, oh my goodness, I don't know, I'm working from home, but I'm really unfocused. And, she didn't have kids. And I was like, well, really, this is a great opportunity for you because we've talked in the past and she was just too busy. And, it was very hard for her to implement the dinacharya and, her work was very busy and she was always traveling and so on. So I was like, this is the perfect opportunity for you. And you can now, for once, control your time and control your daily structure. And you can really put in some self-care practices now and structure your day how you want it. You no longer have to be running around. Work is no longer dictating your hours and so on. So it's a really wonderful time to really focus on your healing for people who have the space to do that. But I do think that it's a great opportunity because this is the one time that's like, wow, I don't have to run around.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah. And as well, Amy, not having guilt around this, because just like we were struggling to find a topic for today's conversation because we don't want to upset people, I think it's important for us not to have guilt around, oh my goodness, I have these opportunities and others don't, or there's other people out there suffering, or, what should I be doing? Should I be productive now? I think letting go of that guilt and really just tuning into what works best for you, because there's different things for different people. For me, I want to be productive right now, but that's probably my pitta going, I need that structure of being productive. So I'm going on with my normal work days. For other people, I know I talked to my sister who's more coffin. She has 3 young kids. And she's like, no, structure's not happening. We do some homeschool in the morning and then, we're activities for the rest of the day, but very loose structure, so I think there's different things that will work for different people right now. But having less guilt around it, what you should be doing, and just more in the being mode, if that works for you, is fine, and that's what you need right now. So less of worrying about what other people are doing or what the experts are saying you should do, and more about tuning into what I need to do. Now, that does not mean, eating loads of junk food and processed foods, and all that bad stuff. But it means like what's going to serve you best right now.
Yeah, I've been feeling a little, I don't know, I keep seeing these news stories that say, this is not the time to be productive. You're allowed to sit back and grieve and feel. And I don't know, for me, it feels natural to be a little pitta and to get stuff done and not allow myself to go into depression. Yeah. I just don't think that would be helpful for me. For somebody else, taking space and time to grieve and be and feel may be the perfect thing for them. But for my constitution, anytime I let myself go there, I'm overly sensitive already. I'm overly empathetic already. I don't think that's going to be good for me, my family, or my students, or my parents. Yeah, I hear you. And I agree. And I think for those that are, of us with a predominant pitta, that structure is what we like, and that really helps us. And I think if we're having a day where we don't have a purpose that day, that's very hard for us, and that could be to a fault sometimes, because there can be a tendency to overwork, right? To really right. I am just going into this headstrong, and I have to be really careful of that I don't overwork. So I have to set up my day where, yes, I'm working my normal day, but be careful, like, okay, take breaks, chill out, because that can drive my pitta over the edge. 100%. And, this is to say that we're supporting all the constitutions to do what they need to stay in balance, right? That there is no one way in Ayurveda or yoga. Mm-hmm. It's all individualized. And when any of us notice that we're getting out of balance in a particular direction, we hopefully through yoga and Ayurveda, know how to self-correct, or if we don't know, we know that we can ask for help.
Right, right. And I think, I know my Vata friends right now are loving it. For the ones I have spoken to, that they're saying, wow, I feel so grounded. I'm not doing my usual running around, and that they're actually feeling very balanced by being able to stay at home and not having that go, 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 which was their normal tendency. Now that may be showing up in other ways, that they may be on the phone a lot, or, they may be on screens a lot, but they're feeling like this grounding quality of staying at home, which I think is very helpful to a high Vata constitution in this situation, where when there's a crisis like this, that there can be a tendency for mental imbalances. Whereas now, with the fact that you're confined to home, that is balancing and helping the Vata constitution right now.
Yeah. But on the other hand, if they're lonely, that could be difficult, right? So
right.
It's really so individual to figure out what each of us needs. And, the clients I'm working with right now online, I just start the session with, where are you at? How are you feeling? What's going on for you? What are your needs? And then we just build from there. And it's different for every single one.
Yeah. And I think with the Vata loneliness, I think, and some of my Vata friends have expressed that, I think that's where the video is really helping. Like you were saying earlier, or Dr. Stephen Porges was saying, like, get on video, you'll see the facial expressions, that's really important, because then there's still a connection. And thank goodness we have that technology available to us.
Oh, thank goodness, right?
Yeah. And for kaphas out there who are, in confinement, of course, this is a natural tendency of kapha to want to be more inwards and stay in and so on. But then you have to be careful not to get too tamasic, not to get too lethargic and so on. So really getting up early, doing that physical activity, really important for you. And be careful to stay away from those comfort foods at this time.
Yeah, I've been doing dancing online with people on Facebook. I have a little mini trampoline that I jump on a couple times a day. And, I've even noticed more water retention in my ankles. And I'm like, oh, the kapha is strong here,
Right. Yeah. So really being aware of that. And of course, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in kapha season right now. I just did a podcast recording with Dr. Sujat on respiratory health. So we'll cover a lot of kapha balancing tips in that. But, I know we kind of went all over the place in this conversation, and I hope it was helpful to you out there. But this is just how things are right now. They're a bit all over the place, and it's a bit of a roller coaster, and it's the unknown. But I think, just this chat today shows that it's a different experience for everyone. And we can't assume that everyone's having the same experience as us. And we have to tune in to our feelings of the day, tune into what we need. Those of us on a path of Ayurveda and yoga have hopefully got to a stage where we can tune in and see what we need that day, and let go of, having to do what the experts say or keep up with others in your community. Just do what feels good for you and feels right for you. And you just take it one day at a time, set up your routine, your dinacharya, get to bed early, try to practice lots of self-love at this time, and compassion, I think, is really important.
Amen. And it is Easter weekend.
And it is Easter weekend. So just want to acknowledge those out there that are suffering. And, those who are experiencing sadness and have friends and family members that are, suffering. There's so much of that right now, and we keep you in our thoughts and prayers. And, and I just want to finish by saying that, we have to acknowledge that too, that there's just a lot of suffering out there right now, and it's hard, and, that you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you just going with this conversation, and I hope the people out there find it helpful.
Yes.
Okay, my dear, you take good care of yourself, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, ciao, ciao. Okay, so a wide-ranging conversation there with Amy. I hope you found some tips in that, or you found that conversation helpful, please let us know over on the podcast Facebook group your thoughts and how you're doing during this time. If you think this episode might be helpful to family members or friends, please share it with them. And as I mentioned, if you want support, I have the discounted Daily Habits course, and I also have my online services still available, consultations, my private cleanses. So that's all available as well if you need support at this time. Okay, everybody, take good care of yourself, be well, and ciao for now.